WNST.net. It's been a wacky week since the last time I talked to this guy. It was before free agency began, and boy, the changes that can come in 1 week to a National Football League team. Dennis Koulatsos joins us here now, of course, from Coons Florida Security Boulevard, where the WNST text service has been fast and furious and active for the Terps, for the Orioles, for the Ravens as well. And, of course, Dennis will be here with the SSV on WNST literally during the Terps game on Thursday, programming against the mighty Turtles. But plenty to say about the mighty Ravens. And I know you caught my dear Joe Flacco letter. I want to encourage everyone out there to read or listen to. It's at some point I'll have it on the radio. I haven't had a chance to actually read it yet, but Dennis, I mean, you need a scorecard, right? I mean, this Haloti Ngata retires. Let's throw that in there as well. But Flacco, Suggs, Mosley, Za'Darius, Weddle, all with press conferences in all these far-flung places, and the next thing you know, the Ravens sign a Hall of Famer. The Ravens sign a special team, outstanding Pro Bowl player, as well as a running back who's a decorated guy. A lot of change in Owings Mills. That's going to be the theme of 2019.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think you do need a scorecard these days to keep up with the movement and the travel between all of these NFL players. And as you mentioned, lots of stuff after Joe Flacco. He's moving his family out to Denver, too, which I thought was pretty telling. Joe looks like he wants to play more than 1 year in Denver, moving his 5 kids and his wife out there. And as you mentioned, Haloti Ngata, after 13 seasons, retiring. Terrell Suggs in a different bird uniform. The Cardinals up there in Arizona. C.J. Mosley gone. Za'Darius Smith signing for a lot of money. Mark Ingram coming to the Ravens, the running back who had a good game against us when we lost to the Saints last year. It's a dizzying array of moves and lots of millionaires out there, Nestor. A lot of guys made a lot of money the last few days.
All right, well, let's start at the top here. We've said goodbye to Flacco and whatnot. I inked my Dear Joe letter and my goodbye to him. Dennis, there was something about, I could have written this letter in April when you bought your Lamar Jackson jersey, and we talked about that. We could have talked about it in September, even though he was playing well. We sort of knew that even that might not save him. It might make him more valuable in the trade market. He might have gotten a first-round pick for him had he played the whole year and been a playoff quarterback. But the handwriting was on the wall, and he goes out to Denver at this point. All these guys departing, it's really end of an era kind of weirdness. And I know the Ravens put out these cheery videos for Suggs and for Flacco last week as well. There's an adjustment period for all of this, and the weirdest adjustment was seeing Flacco standing next to John Elway with that helmet. And I said to Luke, the last time I felt that way was the time I saw Messina put the pinstripes on and stand there next to George Steinbrenner.
Yeah, it is a bit nostalgic. You're right about that. And it's a very good parallel between Messina and Flacco. It's going to be strange to see Joe throwing the football up there in that thin air in Denver, Colorado, and that burnt orange uniform. And, of course, John Elway, him lurking in the background and his ties to Baltimore City and the movement to Indianapolis. And, look, I have mixed emotions about that. Joe was the greatest quarterback to ever wear a Ravens uniform by far, not even close. And we wish him all the best out there in Denver. Just the only time we won't wish him well is when he's playing against our Baltimore Ravens. And looking forward to following these guys around the league, C.J. Mosley up there in the Jets with Le'Veon Bell, and see what they do with Greg Williams as defensive coordinator. But lots of interest. That's the best thing about the NFL, Nestor, all the drama that surrounds all of these moves as these players move from city to city.
Dennis Koulatsos is here. He's out of Coons Florida Security Boulevard. He's selling cars and pre-loved cars as well as getting ready for March Madness. This is your one chance to, get after the Terps if you wish. I mean, we talk plenty of Ravens, you and I know you tend to avoid the Orioles, as I'm hoping to avoid the Orioles here as well. But when it comes to March Madness, this is the week we're all supposed to get our turtle gear out, right? We're supposed to get all terrapins up. And I don't know that there's anything more juicy or more delicious here than for Maryland to face Belmont or Temple while your show is going on your Thursday, then dispatch of LSU, or dare I say Yale, but probably LSU, and wind up playing in Washington, D.C. against Michigan State with a chance to play Duke in Washington, D.C. next weekend. they've certainly set a pathway up that's better than, let's say, going through Boise and Sacramento and, playing Washington State or something. You know what I mean? Like, there is something a little homegrown about this, something a little local about it, something that should be a little personal for Bruno Fernando and for some of these other guys to want a piece of Zion and want to accomplish this. But it's sitting in front of them, and the whole notion that they can play home games next week if they can survive this week in Jacksonville, to me adds even more intrigue for a team that has been this little engine that's been good enough certain nights, and other nights or other mornings in some cases, you watch them play against Nebraska last week and you can't envision how we're going to get that horse out of the gate, right?
Yeah, they've been very the only consistent thing about this team is that they've been very inconsistent, and that's the thing. Which Terps team is going to show up? They've got to get by the Belmont Temple winner for sure, or it's over and done with. But you set up the path of where they can go, certainly, and we would love to see another Maryland-Duke matchup down the road, and Duke, of course, put themselves back in conversation. Zion is back, very entertaining player to watch by their one-point victory over North Carolina.
Well, in the case of the Terps here, and Turgeon, all you hear is fire Turgeon. He's the highest paid guy in the state, as you well know. You talk about that program down there, soccer, lacrosse, women's basketball, then the tragedy of the football program and all that it's represented since they've been in the Big Ten. This is where the university makes hay, right? They put all their eggs into the basketball cart, all the eggs into the Big Ten, thinking that they would be the Duke of the Big Ten or whatever that would be, right, in the modern lefty vernacular. This is a time for them, for Turgeon to show that he belongs, not that they're going to go out in the round of 32 on Saturday, losing to LSU, who's obviously got their own problems with their coaching and legitimacy and all those things.
Well, I don't really get the fire Turgeon talk. Coach did go 13-7 in conference play. I mean, he's in the tournament. I don't know how you fire a coach like that with his pedigree. He recruits very well. Maybe the X's and O's aren't always there, but they're in the conversation. Right? He's been at Maryland for a while now. Is there a better coach out there? I guess that's the question. Particularly if they're one and done in the tournament, which I can't imagine them being.
Well, you know how rabid the boosters are or are not, right? And you would admit, much like all the other programs around here, right? The Redskins, the Ravens, empty seats, that's endemic in sports at this point. This is the Terps' chance to get people like you and I, pointed back toward College Park, that if they go on a rah-rah run, and let's just say you and I a week from now are talking about them playing Michigan State, in a night game down in D.C. next week. Boy, it would put the Terps back on the front page where they haven't been for a while, right? I mean, that's really the story. We're waiting for them to get back on the front page.
And they should be. They should be a much more determined team next week after that awful loss to Nebraska. They'll be more determined, more focused, and hopefully they can make a run. Everybody loves Maryland Terps basketball, right? In the state of Maryland, you might have Redskins fans, as you mentioned, Ravens fans, but we all get behind the State University, right? The big boy out there. We like, with all the legacy and all the great names that have gone through that program, the national championship with Gary Williams, and this is a chance for this team to add to that legacy.
Dennis Koulatsos is here. What is going on over at Coons Florida Security Boulevard, other than you keeping Luke very, very busy with the WNST text service?
Yeah, the text service is wonderful. Maybe we could. I wish we could use the text service for our specials, but of course we always hack it with CoonsBaltimoreFord.com. We're selling a lot of vehicles. Spring is here, Nestor. So the drop tops, convertibles, Mustangs, all the nice, fancy, hot cars are out there. We're getting shots from all over the. People all over the country are flying in daily to take.
Tell me how that works. Like you always say that folks are coming in, and I know you're not making that up because you've proven it. You put pictures out on the web, but tell me how that works for you. That someone would literally you could undercut the market by that much.
Well, let's say Nestor J. Aparicio is sitting in Florida in Naples, and he wants to buy a Mustang drop top, and all the local dealers are charging MSRP or close to it, and he sees a deal on the web.
Okay.
Coons Baltimore Ford is beating their prices by $4,000. They call up here. We tell them, yes, we have the vehicle. Here's the deal. Here are all our reviews and reputation. They take a flight up here, and they drive back, and they save themselves a ton of money. That's how it works. You'll be surprised how many people do that because plane travel is relatively inexpensive these days, and if you can save someone thousands over the cost of a vehicle, they certainly will. They take planes, trains, and automobiles out of here. Sometimes they'll drive a trade-in and drive a new one back, but it always works. That's why, because nobody beats us on price.
Dennis Koulatsos here. He'll be here on Thursday from 3 until 5 with the SSV on WNST and getting you ready. Anything you want to say about the Orioles? I do want to give you an opportunity because, it is opening day next week, Dan.
Well, you know what? Again, I'm about 3/4 of the way now. I was reading Astroball, which is a fascinating read, and I want to thank you for putting that on my radar in terms of books to read. And that's my intrigue. Let's see if this thing translates and has done so for this group of management team in the past. Let's see if they can perform the same kind of magic, if you will, with this version of the Orioles. I think the team is young, it's hungry. They have a long way to go, but this is something new for me in analytics, right? So let's see if they can make it go here in Baltimore. And as long as the ownership stays out of the way, which I think they will, I think they'll have a legitimate shot of making it happen. And the nice thing is at least they have a plan, right? They didn't have a plan the year before, the year before that, and now they have a plan in place. And I think it's critical to setting a foundation to any organization's success, be it the car business or, let's say, a baseball franchise. So I'm curious to see how all these pieces come together, and that's what makes this fascinating to follow. Now, in terms of wins and losses, we don't expect much, right? They've already conditioned us not to expect many victories this year or next year for that matter, but hopefully the players are not getting that memo and they're out there trying to do their best, which I think they will. They have a lot of young talent on this team, and look, hopefully they're fun to watch, Nestor.
Well, I mean, you mentioned, part of this was Astroball for you and, continue to promote that book, but it is an interesting sort of life lesson in the book, right? It's not as much about baseball as it is about psychology and pliability, for players to change and to evaluate themselves. I mean, that's one of the hardest things to do, right? Is to sit and watch yourself in film and be hard on yourself and evaluating yourself. They give you quite an opportunity to do that. I mean, we've already started to see that in spring training with release points and the amount of measurement that they do for each one of these players, as well as the kind of adjustments they're looking for with the next generation of the game. So in a way that the players that were here last year are going to have to learn a whole new program because the old Orioles are not the new Orioles for anybody that was around.
No, they're not, but I go back to talent, and, the biggest, strongest, fastest don't always win, but that's the way to bet, right? So give me the talented players and then maybe apply those analytics to those players, and that's the biggest concern is, I don't know that they have enough talent on this team to compete, to make any kind of noise in their division.
Dennis Koulatsos will be talking football. He'll be talking Terps in the aftermath on Thursday. It is the SSV on WNST. And you can, of course, follow him out on Twitter and make sure you are subscribed to our WNST text service in case the next Earl Thomas or Justin Houston is around the corner. No shock by the Ravens sort of picking up, right? I mean, I think we felt like they were going to be regrouping to some degree, but this is sort of where they are with the cap, and they're in the best cap shape they've been in a long time, recruiting another Hall of Famer. That, to me, that speaks volumes for what the program's about, that Earl Thomas and they could get 3 players of the caliber they did last week in Ingram in that short a period of time. It says this is still a good place to work if you're a football player, right?
It does, and they still have $22 million to play with. That's the 12th highest in the NFL, and it's very unusual for them to have that kind of cap money, especially after those 3 signings of last week. Look, and I think Eric, he's a long way from building this roster, completing this roster. We still have more free agency to go. We have the NFL draft, and I'm very excited that the nucleus is still there, the foundation is there, and Earl Thomas, future Hall of Fame safety, who could ask for more than that on the back end? As long as he stays healthy, hopefully he's cleared for medical issues, the leg breaks he's had. He can stay healthy on that field and give that back end the juice. And it's all about the back end. If they can stay healthy and be sticky, they can give the pass rush a chance. You mentioned Justin Houston. This team isn't done yet. That's a very good veteran. If he can get him at the right price, maybe add a nice young edge rusher in the draft in the first or third round or second round if they trade back, that'd be the way to go. So I'm very excited about this year's version of the Baltimore Ravens.
Well, I mean, it's a lot of institutional knowledge go out the door when you lose Suggs, Mosley, and Weddle. Somebody's got to wear the dot. Somebody's got to run the defense. Having an Earl Thomas kind of player, I mean, it certainly makes me feel better that we're going to be playing meaningful games in December next year, which is all I really want them to do, right? I mean, I just want them to play games after Thanksgiving that matter. That's my expectation for them in any year, but I have no delusions of grandeur that they're going to be a 14-win team next year. And if they are, that's awesome. I'll ride that purple magic coat ride, but I'm not expecting that. I am expecting this to look and feel and be a struggle for a second-year quarterback in this offense, given what they're trying to do and morph from being an old veteran team to being a younger team.
Another big blow, too, was the retirement of Jerry Rosberg, the highly thought of special teams coach of the Baltimore Ravens, right? Jerry's always had a top 5, top 3, maybe the best special teams group in the league. They've been voted best special teams group in the league, I think, a couple of years ago, and that may be avoided, although John Harbaugh, that is his passion, that is his background.
Dennis, take care of yourself this week. We're going to get that weather up into the 60s for you before the weekend, no doubt about it. We'll see you at Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. See you on Thursday as well.
Sounds great. Be well. Thank you, Nestor.
Dennis Koulatsos joining us here from Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. Of course, if you're on the text service, you know how active it's been. I've had it up. I mean, sometimes we've had to wait until like early in the morning, 7:30 or 8 in the morning to send it out to you because we don't be waking people up with our text service, certainly not in the middle of the night. But there's been plenty of news for everybody out there. I mean, we just go through the list here. Let's see here. I'm going through. Former Ravens Haloti Ngata retires after 13 seasons. Maryland plays the 6th seed. Justin Bethel becomes a Raven. Jerry Rosberg retires. Chris Orton takes his place. Mark Ingram, 3-year deal, $15 million. Earl Thomas, $55 million, $32 guaranteed. Mike Messina elected to that's I'm going way back now. Nasty at WNST.net finds me. I'm out on Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and Snapchat and Instagram, streaming live on our Facebook as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. Lots of Terps, lots of Ravens, a little bit of Orioles, and a lot of Baltimore positive. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.